Something I always liked about Paper Mario was that it was an RPG series that let you choose how strong you could get throughout the game. It was a novel game design choice, but with how many other games don't really let you choose how your stats increase. But the game goes a step further than that. Paper Mario lets you choose to not boost your stats at all. So with few exceptions, you can choose to throw hands as if you are at your weakest and show through pure fundamental knowledge that you're cut above its challenge. And this can manifest from beating the whole game with 10 HP and 5 FP with no badges, to beating the pit of 100 trials with those same stats without even collecting your first crystal star. These are downright brutal challenges that really put the best to ever play these games through the ringer and demonstrate their mastery of the game's combat. Now, why am I talking about Paper Mario in a video about Bug Fables? Well, it's a very similar game. So similar that even how level ups are handled near identically follows the rules of the Paper Mario series. The first two at least. However, Bug Fables also allows you to just never level up at all if you wanted, which Paper Mario as a series doesn't allow. So even if you can keep your stats as low as you want, you would still benefit in other ways. You heal to max HP and FP, for example, whenever your star points reach 100. And it's here we get into the challenge of this video. Beating Bug Fables, the Everlasting Sapling, with rank 0 stats for the whole adventure, meaning our starting HP and TP, and no medals that cost MP to equip. To keep yourself at rank 0 in Bug Fables means a little bit more than just what's implied in that your stats never go up. In addition to HP and TP never being ranked up, you also cannot equip medals that cost more than 0 MP. Because of this, we can equip Hard Mode, which I intend on playing with for the whole adventure, but other medals like Poison Defender, Power Exchange, Miracle Matter, and Pip Finder are off limits. This challenge also must be done with the menu code Ruigi, making leveling up impossible and disallowing full heals from getting enough exploration points, but also cutting ourselves off from many skills we take from granted, from V's Secret Stash to Leaf's Frigid Coffin. This early in the game, all we have for bonus skills are V's Tornado Toss, making it our strongest attack against 0 defense targets, Kabu's Taunt, which draws attacks towards him exclusively barring a few exceptions, and Leaf's Icefall, which hits all enemies within range with a chance to freeze them solid for one turn. Now fortunately, Bug Fables is a very accessible game. Knowing that you can't level up at all, the first boss is made weaker to compensate for your inability to get stronger. Afterwards, however, you're on your own. We can make good progress against Spooter with V's Tornado Toss and a few items. I wanted to score a cheeky KO on him before he could call his pals, but fate had different plans, as Leaf's Icefall failed to freeze. We're still able to win handily thanks to our items and some sharp super blocks, and our first artifact has been claimed and returned to our queen, Elizant II. And because she's a queen, you know she's gonna end up being evil, because apparently there's no such thing as a good queen or a bad princess. Right, Disney? Well anyway, that's chapter 1. Over and done with. Now most bosses boil down to just how much damage can you dish out with your limited scope of HP. With no medals, items are your sole lifeline. In the form they take when first acquired, most items are nothing to write home about. However, several chefs exist in this game that can make your items considerably more potent. Reasonably, you conclude that this would mean we're spending a lot of berries, this game's currency, in the efforts of buying all the items we need. And you'd be correct. However, Bug Fables has done something rather interesting to make grinding less of a pain in the butt. You see, during Ruigi challenges, enemies drop more berries than usual. I don't have the exact numbers, but you can make money very quickly while fighting regular enemies. And later in this game, this only becomes more true. A medal available for purchase amplifies this fact further as Marab sells hard hits at his shop. A medal that doubles the berry reward after battles provided it's equipped. As a result, I'm actually not going to stress over how many berries I spend, as I know I can get more later. So I invest in a bunch of spicy and burly berries, since no doubt they'll all be used up likely before the end of, I don't know, chapter 4. Yeah, they're that good. Extra attack is no joke. Before long, I decide to venture through Bulgaria's outskirts to begin chapter 2, where Kabu's buddy Neolith is being harassed by some wasps. And being a man of the outnumbered, I go in and tip the scales in his favor alongside Team Celia. Levy actually joins us in the fight against 2 wasp troopers, and the fight is as simple as Kabu attacking twice per turn while nothing else can really be done. We don't actually have any use for our TP, and so V and Leaf don't really offer much beyond moral support and an extra turn for Kabu to do something. Meanwhile, Levy is as strong as Kabu's basic attack, so as long as we survive her long enough, we'll win. And that ain't exactly difficult to do. I went back and forth for a bit to get some more burly berries, and just before the tunnel leading to the Golden Path... well, that's convenient. There's not much I have to say regarding traveling to and from locales. We get lots of berries thanks to hard hits, and I use them to buy items for event battles with bosses, mini or mega. We also learn new moves as the game proceeds, and this is about the only way we can learn new skills when ranking up is not allowed. For now with Arya, I typically fight her with Kabu and Leaf, but I chose V this time around because I wanted to try and beat her before she could summon her Venus Bud. The problem though is my strategy depended on using either a spicy berry or a poison dart, and I brought neither for some stupid reason. Worse yet, I had hard hits on and was taking a lot more damage than I should have. I still ended up winning, but most of my items were burned to do it, so I redid the fight and proceeded to beat Arya in the way I thought I would have. The important thing to remember here is that she will summon when her HP drops below 40%. As long as she doesn't start her turn with 10 HP or less, you don't have to worry about the Venus Bud and can win pretty easily. The fight to follow of Team Mathiva in the Golden Hills naturally will be fairly tricky, but we have access to Sleep Bombs, which can potentially send a duo to Dreamland. I opt to Burly Bomb and then Sleep Bomb, both on Mathiva, since as long as Zaz falls asleep, I'll be able to wipe her out before he has the chance to wake up, and that will make this fight very easy as he'll not be seeing any bonus attack from his girlfriend getting hurt. Unfortunately, only Mathiva fell asleep, which made it not viable to KO her as soon as I'd have liked. So I instead just feed V some Berry Jam, boosting her attack and defense for a couple of turns, and Zaz proceeds to burn his turn hitting V once for literally nothing. At this point, he's not really a threat, so I focus on Mathiva for a bit, since all of my extra attack would be kind of a waste on him. And as if I needed any more justification, Mathiva reviving Zaz makes a wonderful case for the age-old wisdom that dictates that it be ladies first. The following Fracas vs Venus' Guardian, meanwhile, was a brawl I had down to a science. In addition to the many honey leaves I had to heal with, you want to have some good fundamentals. Namely, just be sure to let either Leaf or Kabu be your primary attacker, and save your TP for when you're looking to close the fight out. Also be aware that you're never truly safe, and often one bout of bad luck can immediately put you on the back foot. For that reason, packing ample healing items really only makes sense, so bringing magic seeds could be a good call just in case Kabu gets wiped out. And if anyone else falls, you have Pep Talk. Anyhow, I wanted to beat Venus' Guardian before she could summon a Bud to assist it, so I took a gander at my notes to see when she would summon a Bud, and proceeded to then chuck a Poison Bomb onto it because the extra damage I figured would be helpful. I then let it fly back up into the air with it just outside summoning range, and proceeded to Burly Bomb followed up by V's Hurricane Toss. And since it does extra damage to a target with natural defense if its defense is dropped, yeah, this thing was going to wilt tonight. That malarkey that happened with Leaf aside, this boss is typically pretty fair, and the fact there are counters that exist to skip certain phases is really handy. You really gotta hand it to this game to give us two fantastic skills in this very chapter that both end up being useful here and later. And it won't be long before we learn more. With 2 chapters down, the next skill we learned is another of Kabu's in Dash Through. With it, he hits all enemies on the ground for his normal attack power +1. So if he's in front and hasn't acted yet, he does 4 damage to start. It ends up being pretty handy against the Bandit and Wasp ambush. We're actually joined by Jen and Aerie, and they end up making this battle easier than I'm used to. Granted, I'm used to doing this fight without them, but it's nice that they don't get in the way either. They scored a KO on the Wasp Scout for whatever that's worth. I went on to prepare a Queen's Dinner so that I can get the discount on healing from Venus. Since my best option to grind far and away depends on hard hits, and I'm guaranteed to be left low on HP every 1 or 2 battles with it on, this will honestly just start to pay for itself before long. Your Acolyte will be eating good tonight. It's not long after this that Leaf starts gaining new skills with his bubble shields, moves that protect the target from enemy attacks. A decent defensive option, but it won't be preferable for long. At least for now, it's about the best thing we have for attacks we can see coming. We're still better off just rushing enemies down if we can help it, which is what I do in fighting Obama Honey. Dash Through is just often my best option since it may use more TP than Icefall, but you're not getting any less uses out of it since our max TP isn't really high enough where we'd get any extra uses out of Icefall anyway. You may have also noticed that my max TP is 11 up from 10. The reason for that is there are key items that permanently boost your stats when consumed. Max TP is boosted by consuming Bond Berries. There's about 4 for the whole game if I recall correctly, and only 2 are easily accessible. But we won't find a second one until Chapter 4, while we can just buy the first one. Back to the action in the Honey Factory, a Honey Nation is our next target. And as you may recall, the strategy here is just to go in with brute force. Beware of the charged attack, as it can drop V and leave from max HP if you fail to block it. Remember what I said about Magic Seeds? Yeah, always come in packing. It helps when you're like me and can't math whether an attack will KO. And with this glob of doom behind us, let's get into the big boy. Good old B33 always was a bit of a difficulty spike. High attack and always being airborne meaning Kabu's disadvantage in tackling it. We've got our work cut out for us. I did prepare several bombs and spicy foods, assuming the worst, but I actually just went in with only a fraction of my most powerful items and some relative junk and mushroom gummies and yam bread. I had an idea of using a burly bomb and spicy candy to accelerate the damage I do, but beyond that, it was mainly just improv. I admittedly really wish I brought more items capable of restoring TP, and it wasn't like anything was stopping me. I had only 8 items when I could have brought a max of 10. I really could not tell you what was going through my head to do something so brazen, but I did do it. In any case, it's here where my low max HP once again comes back to haunt me. Since I can't take much before falling, Leaf's Bubble Shield actually ends up being pretty important to have right now. Otherwise, especially meaty attacks that strike my whole party can put me in nearly unsalvageable shape. Not helped when the enemy side effectively act in sync and make moves that feel geared towards the worst case scenario. Though time to think of it, it may be my fault for not shifting the B-Boop's attack to be the Numbing Honey, as I learned later that Super Blocks negate all of its damage, and that could have made things less close. Either way, I actually ended up using every item I had, reviving Kabu so that he could back up V in KOing the B33. Then it turned into a 1v1 where V was fighting a B-Boop. Essentially, I either had to Super Block or die, and if you couldn't tell by the fact that I'm here commentating this fight, I Super Blocked. Because I'm an expert! A lot has opened up to us now that we have completed the Honey Factory. Question is, where do we start? Well, after becoming a homeowner, I go and continue the story for a bit to learn Kabu a new move in Under Strike. This attack, in addition to piercing all enemy defense, hits twice, making it a good alternative to V's Hurricane Toss unless the target has 0 natural defense. A good move, but not one I imagine we'll be seeing too much outside of regular enemies. The second Bond Berry I have in mind is also found here, so be sure to pick it up. I figure afterwards that I'll need to beat Astophiles sooner than later, and to my horror, I find myself getting completely skewered by his cane even when I'm blocking. For a bit, I imagined this challenge was going to die sooner than I thought, which is kinda crazy to think because I know at least one other person has completed this challenge before me. Then I realized I had hard hits on. God dang it. Well, Astophiles, much like Venus Guardian, is a full of fundamentals. Being able to super block is critical to success here, and especially keeping Kabu alive, as he's the only bug you have capable of fainting when Astophiles has his guard up. And once his HP is low enough, he'll start attacking twice in a single turn and become all the more of a pain to fight. All it takes is one string of missed inputs and Kabu will drop from max HP to 0 in a single turn. And since we can't use items in this fight, meaning Magic Seeds won't be able to bail us out, plus Kabu is our only bug capable of revival, yeah, odds drop significantly that we can survive. On the bright side, if you're skilled enough at this boss, Super Blocks will block all damage from Astophiles' stabs, so just shape up and you should be fine. And with him defeated, we now have access to Squash. These are normally only available after starting Chapter 6, but the bandits have them as early as Chapter 4, and we can simply grab one, leave, return, and collect as many as our heart desires. So I snagged several squashes and cooked them with my spicy berries to make some squash tarts. This item grants attack up and TP regeneration that both last for 3 turns. One more than the spicy candy affords, and because the TP regen is gradual, you can use them when your stats are maxed and not waste anything. It's an excellent item and one that really allows us to spread our wings and hunt. And hunt, I shall. You see, there is a move I really want to get now, and it takes having not only Squash, but also Aphid Dew and one more item we don't quite have access to yet. but we'll have to wait until the next chapter to get it unless we conquer the Broodmother first. Her kit involves ramming into you and trying to numb you with projectiles. She can also summon midgets to her side, but I actually never saw her do it. She just really had it out for Leaf, which is kinda strange since it was V who was doing all of the fighting. But, you know, that ice magic looks really bright. She's probably captivated by Leaf's ice like a moth to a flame. Either way, Leaf's just trying to send Broodmother to bed without dessert, and it took 2 sleep bombs, but the second one actually does work. A spicy candy to get my TP back up has V keep up the assault, and by the time Broodmother is able to attack again and gain permanent hustle status, she just keeps ramming into me. And it's here I realize I probably just had the easiest Broodmother fight. Okay, second easiest Broodmother fight in my life. 2 tornado tosses to KO the Broodmother, and we've conquered our first optional boss. We now have the way open to get a new super powerful skill, but we now need to get all the necessary items. So I go ahead and wipe out the Dune Scorpion blocking the way forward into the Sandcastle. A word to the wise, the Burly Bomb won't reach the main boss if you throw it at the Size Corp. I was disappointed to learn that, but I had a spare on hand, and you likely can imagine what my strategy was for this thing. There really isn't much to talk about, so let's just proceed. The last item I'm looking to grab is here. I fight enemies until a magic ice gets dropped, after which I depart and pull out a squash and aphid dude to wander into this random tower in the far grasslands, an area we have early access into after Broodmother was defeated. And after some back and forth, I'm able to get the wizard here the 3 items and learn a skill between V and Leaf called Frost Relay. So what's so great about this move? Both V and Leaf work together in attacking a single target with their respective skills. The damage floor is at 1 for them both, but there's a number of ways you can increase their damage. I have a video that goes more in depth on this move, but for the purpose of this challenge, this is where Squash Tarts will end up becoming downright incredible. I'll demonstrate on Mother Chomper here. See, against a target with defense, the move actually floors at 0 damage. And with the TP cost associated with this move, you reasonably wouldn't want to see your hits do 0 damage when Hurricane Toss is right there, and just does more for much, much less. However, with both V and Leaf's attack power being boosted, the floor for damage actually goes up, meaning the least both of their hits will do goes from 1 to 2. You do the math, and you can quite literally do more than 30 damage in one turn with optimal play. Of course, this is assuming the target has 0 defense, which Mother Chomper has 1, but that's easy to get around. All we need to do is Burly Bomb the Chomper closer to her, and her defense will be dropped for 3 turns, giving us plenty of time to prune her leaves and steal her seed. Admittedly, things can go south if V takes too much damage, but that didn't happen. Mother Chomper just spreads her attacks out, leaving her vulnerable to one last Frost Relay, and we end up dominating her. And now we've received the ultimate life form, our baby Chomper. She's only ever gone by the name Princess, but I think it's high time we assign her her true name.
You ever get the feeling something really bad is about to happen?
You fools! You've messed with the natural order!
Princess has been her name for so long, I can't think of her any differently. I feel like learning more moves would be ideal, so since we're in pretty great shape, I go and work towards V and Joan being able to see eye to eye with each other. Of course, I have to be able to go to Middle Island to accomplish that, so I get to work unlocking the Underground Tavern. Just gotta put this Amy Rose looking at down, and with Frost Relay, that isn't exactly difficult to do in quick fashion. Princess even gets to knock Monsieur Scarlet out before he gets the chance to permanently boost his attack or defense. A few rounds of spy cards later, I'm able to finish the fetch quest, allowing V and Joan to properly apologize to each other, and Sharing Stash is now mine to use. And since I was thinking about it, I also tackled the BOSS because, though I can't use medals that cost MP, I don't think anyone who's watching this video would dare object to me using spy specs. And if you do, I'll be the first to tell you that you're wrong. The alternative would just be spying and then committing seppuku with an abomination, so let me have my 1 MP medal. Past that, the upcoming bosses don't really give me much to say. Most bosses we encounter are subjected to a truly brutal defeat. And since I feel it'd be boring to just show the following few bosses we defeated the exact same way, I like to instead just refer you to my full run with text commentary if you want to see for yourself how all of the bosses following us getting this move were dealt with. I kid you not. That's just how strong Frost Relay is. It's basically power bounce levels of good. And if you've ever played Paper Mario before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. One of the few fights to give me any trouble was Zasp and Mothibus rematch. This brought to my attention how Frost Relay had more weaknesses than against foes with defense. It turns out that with my low overall TP and need to take out 2 decently bulky targets, complicated further by the overall lack of TP I actually had and the relative frailty of Team Snakemouth, we were actually in constant danger of just getting wiped out due to not being able to KO Team Mothibus fast enough. Assuming both V and Leaf are powered up, Zasp would still have about 9 HP left after we were done whacking him. And since he has defense, we need to use one of our turns to Burly Bomb him so that we can get the maximum value out of Frost Relay. This complicates things a lot, as I tend to rely on sharing stash to help offset the damage we take in the same turn. And since it's Zasp and he can taunt, you might say I got cold feet and didn't feel comfortable trying my luck against him. Admittedly, I may have sabotaged myself by knowing how the AI can act here, but the fact of the matter is the luck we're banking on is not really practical. If Zasp targets V with even 2 hits, Mothibus can finish her off from max HP. And if V falls, she was who I gave my Super Pepper, so we'd be at a real disadvantage regarding power. I actually feel Kabu may have been a better fit now, as Frost Relay's damage does not go up much with it on V, and I seldom use Hurricane Toss anyway. I also wish I thought to use my Heart Berry on V, or even prepare some Pumpling Pie right now, because giving V more survivability could only be a good thing. And it isn't like KOing Zasp means he'll stay down for good. Likewise, taking Mothibus out first would make Zasp too much for us to handle. And these unfortunate circumstances saw me lose not once, not twice, not even thrice, but 4 times before I realized maybe Ice Rain would be a decent idea here after all. And honestly, the fact that I didn't even achieve perfect accuracy here should be telling as to how effective this move still was. Really, I had to change my entire plan of attack to win this. I still used Frost Relay, but I also needed Ice Rain, Fly Drop, and even Tornado Toss to help make up the damage I lost. It probably helped as well that Mothibus kept reviving Zasp when I was in a position to keep him down, and fortunately, Princess was able to keep up the assault on Mothibus while we were stuck playing bully with her boyfriend, taking out the ringleader as she so typically does. It's a marvel just how often Princess ends up coming to my rescue sometimes, even if she doesn't score all that many KOs. Continuing on the list of exceptions, Peacock Spider is the only bounty boss to give me any trouble at all. The problem is we often see her buffing her summons, and she seems to prefer boosting attack more often than not. And since we're seeing multiple hits per turn, you can tell it doesn't take much for her summons to become problematic, especially when they always are summoned as soon as possible and block Princess's line of sight. I actually thought to bring up Plumpling Pie this time since I recognized this could have been an issue for me, but it wasn't enough to win. I really do need more HP if I want to reliably win this. It really speaks to the importance of defense for bosses, as if Peacock Spider didn't have any defense, I can guarantee you her demise would have happened much sooner. Fortunately, I had room to go up from here. Among my items were just a bunch of glazed honeys and even a fried egg, so I dropped them in favor of some cherry pies, and that seemed to have done the trick. I also bought the Drowsy Ribbon for Princess, but it didn't need it. And good thing, because I forgot to equip it before going into battle anyway. However, I'm not sure if me winning was as a result of being better prepared, or because the Peacock Spider spent most of her turns just attacking directly instead of buffing her minion. But I'm tempted to say the former, because her strikes would have definitely wiped the V out early if I didn't give her the extra defense she needed to weather the assault. I even got to finish the fight with Frost Bowling. All in all, sorry if I disappoint, but there wasn't much to say otherwise. This rewards us an extra Bond Berry, but reward or not, I enjoy the thrill of the hunt. Onto the Giant's Lair. We've got only a few fights here, but let that not fool you. This is where the challenge truly begins. Whether that's because Chapter 7 is actually difficult, or I have an ability deficiency, I'll leave that up to your interpretation. First up, we had the dreaded Deadlander ambush. Not gonna lie, this gave me some trouble. I already had my items planned for the final boss and figured to just run with the leftover junk I had with Amber. And as a result, I really wasn't prepared for what these monsters could throw at me. You also no doubt will notice that I'm primarily using Kabu as my attacker, rendering the Super Pepper I had used on via moot point. What a sad state this leaves us in. Ultimately, winning just depends on us not seeing too many multi-hit attacks from the Deadlanders. As long as they're not used too frequently, we have the capacity to outlast them. Though not having a means of immediately restoring HP did mean we'd be in trouble once our HP got low, and I lost a fair few times because of not being able to recover in time. I only barely managed to win after several attempts because I had a sleep bomb, enabling me to do just enough damage to the Gamma Deadlander for Princess and Maki to finish it off. This was the wake-up call I needed to go and hunt for as many more stat-boosting items as I could find, so I found a couple more Heart Berries, bought the Iron Seed to boost Kabu's defense by 1, and took out the Fire Constructs as the last event fight standing between us and the final boss. And well, let's just say this was by no means a free ride. So remember that tried and true strategy that saw us go so far where we just bully every boss with Frost Relay? Well, the Wasp King is the only boss who won't have us try him this way. And that's because, though he is a single target, the fight doesn't end with him. We'll have to fight another boss immediately afterwards with no time to restore our items. So what we go in with to start is all we will have. Because of this, we're going to have to play the long game as opposed to just blitzing him. And that allows him to exploit our greatest weakness, my lackluster defenses. And it only gets worse once his HP falls below a certain threshold because he'll then be able to strike twice in one turn, quickly being able to drop me to my knees. I didn't know it at first, but I simply was going nowhere fast. It took me 4 attempts before I managed to narrowly eke out a win, and it took me 4 items to do it. This was not good. The Everlasting King is a very long fight, and my items are not nearly up to par for me to win with only 6 items of my max 10. I know it may look weird for me to still be relying on Squash Tarts and Burly Bombs, but I didn't want to splurge on Queen's Dinners and Miracle Shakes. I had the money for them, but I wanted to win my way. And my way, if successful, wouldn't take as long. Though with how many times I actually lost, I don't think I did myself any real favors. After 3 attempts, my best only barely makes it to the final phase of the fight. So I know I need to regroup and try again later. The only thing I deemed necessary though was using Patin to remove all of Kabu's buffs so I could give them all to V. I felt like if V was to go down, I could easily find myself in an unwinnable situation. And since I don't have all of the TP in the world, I wouldn't be able to spam Understrike to my heart's content anyway. Now that you understand me a bit better, let's give this goof one more good go round. The good news is that my redone stat spread has me able to beat the Wasp King's first fight on my first try. I even managed to win while using only 2 of my max 10 items, being a single Squash Tart and a Queen's Dinner. The bad news? Only during my review of my gameplay did I realize that I went into the Wasp King fight with only 9 items. I'm allowed a max of 10. And that really burns me up on the inside as I made this artificially harder on myself by complete accident. I definitely would have brought a 3rd Queen's Dinner or even a 2nd Miracle Shake had I known. It would have done a ton to make this fight less RNG dependent when getting to the Everlasting King. Alas, it's behind me now. Anyways, I'm actually able to find a couple of opportunities to Frost Relay the first phase of the Wasp King. Though I prefer having V's attack be boosted first, it's entirely serviceable as long as the target has no defense. And the second time I used it, the Wasp King has so little HP left, I was able to relay everyone's turn to V, and she's able to reduce Hoax to a range where Princess is able to pick him off. So that's great. Not so great is the marathon we know as the Everlasting King. So, this was a fight where I was once again reliant on Hurricane Toss and Burly Bombs to do the bulk of the damage. Because of his gradual healing, you may think it unwise to keep him grounded by the end of the turn, but he actually is easier to handle when on the ground, as he can't summon artifacts when grounded, and Princess helps mitigate his healing anyway. It's generally preferable to have him try sealing our HP as opposed to, say, summoning the Ancient Tablet to make himself invincible for a turn while he still gets to attack us, especially when I'm currently under the effects of a Squash Tart. Really annoying stuff. If he's feeling especially fiendish, he can also choose to use both halves of the Ancient Key to shred us like shrimp. which there is nothing really stopping him from spamming it, so using Kabu's Understrike to wipe the keys out is generally ideal provided he isn't KO'd first. All in all, there's a ton of cheap tricks that can end your run if you get unlucky, as well as times where Hoax just refuses to focus on the target in front to pick on Leaf for some reason. Pretty cruel, but not the worst I've seen a being reliant on ice magic be treated. There were a lot of moments where if we just had a little more juice, we'd have been able to win. Several attempts had me see V be KO'd with me being unable to outpace Hoax's healing, and trying to do more damage would make him impossible to actually hit. This exact dilemma is exactly why I figured ranking up Kabu would be counterproductive. Because in addition to doing less damage to V, or even Leaf relative to TP use, he's also just by far the hardest to use. But knowing what I know now, this would have been over so much more quickly had I just learned how to count. Almost 45 minutes of failure later, I get an attempt where I'm actually able to preserve my Miracle Shake, which I use to revive Kabu and V, giving us just enough gas to finally take this tyrant out of commission. And like that, rank 0 has been conquered. With all of the suffering behind me, I can now relax and play Ace Attorney Chronicles again. Though, I'm sure you're also expecting me to fight teams Mackie and Slagger too, so heck it, why not? I complete the associated quests, and through doing it, I'm given a second Super Pepper and Iron Seed. I could give these both to V, but I don't think that'd be wise. I actually return to Patton one last time, and instead focus all of these set bonuses into Kabu so that his Understrike hits as hard as possible. I then go into the fights with the super bosses this game has to offer, the first being Team Mackie. It turns out his team isn't very scary when Kabu's near impossible to actually KO. Understrike makes scarily quick work of Kina. We have an abundance of Queen's Dinners, making Kabu's HP last for way longer than you'd expect. And since Yin can't hurt us, this fight is already just about over, though we were able to drag it out just a tiny bit longer when Princess put her to sleep, allowing Kabu to chunk her HP to about half of her max. Cruel, but, well hey, it's me who's playing this game, give me a break. Team Slacker meanwhile was more difficult, but not by much. Understrike was much harder to use, as you have to be near dead center to hit both Delilah and Stratos with one use of the move, but we had the TP to use it twice in one turn, meaning I had ample chances to get good at hitting it. Princess would also buy us time with sleep, which is always fantastic when she's able to trigger it, so her lack of direct damage isn't much of an issue for us. Kabu was definitely at higher risk of being KO'd here, but we still had plenty of Queen's Dinners to keep us afloat, and because Delilah was KO'd as early as she was, the assault from Team Slacker slowed down a lot once Stratos was alone thanks to Princess putting it to sleep again. And when he did get to act again, he just tried to attack Kabu again, which was in vain because the very next turn saw him succumb to us. As smoothly as this fight went, would it surprise you if I said this was actually my second try? I don't think so. These bosses were fun and all, but there's one more fight I'm sure you're dying to see me show off. Team Snakemouf. Can we defeat ourselves in rank 0? I was gonna say yes we can, but I'm not really interested in pulling it off. But I actually did try a few times, and after some experimenting and an absurd amount of trial and error, I found a combination that actually worked. I found Kabu to be the best candidate for all of our buffs. My items involve 8 Queen's Dinners and 2 Sleep Bombs. What I would do is repeatedly use Fly Drop and Kabu and then Sleep Bomb him. The blast would hit V and Leaf, and they both need to be put to sleep. The reason why I'm doing this is because Kabu has Favorite 1 equipped, and will keep buffing V and Leaf if they're awake to witness his pain. And I can't save Kabu for last because he's likely to revive his friends, and we're so limited in HP and TP, we really can't afford for this fight to last any longer than winning would dictate. V and Leaf are also significantly more powerful when attacking with Tornado Toss and especially Ice Rain. So having to worry less about charge being built will make them much less dangerous in the long run, as their attacks become just beyond unfair to deal with when we have no medals of our own. There is also just a fair amount of jank that makes this fight scarier than it really should be. V being poisoned, for example, actually buffs Kabu and Leaf's attack too, and there are times where I swear Tornado Toss cannot be blocked, even when I'm clearly in a blocking animation. At least once Kabu falls, we're relatively free to just spam dash through. I'd rely on moves like Hurricane Toss or Ice Rain myself, but we unfortunately have to contend with Team Snatemouth being able to block, reducing our damage significantly when using attacks that hit the same target multiple times, so I couldn't. Eventually, I reasoned that conserving my TP would be the way to go, and I just relied on Kabu's basic attack to chip V and Leaf down. It actually worked really well, and I'm eventually able to drop Leaf to only 18 HP left. 2 more fly drops would KO him, but I prematurely celebrated, wasting the last of my TP and putting myself at risk of a loss. If Leaf revives anyone, it's unlikely I'll be able to recover now. Fortunately, he opted instead for Ice Rain, which both V and Kabu survive, and 2 more basic attacks take him out, winning me this ridiculous final fight despite a stupendously silly blooper. And that is all she wrote. Now, typically I don't talk about the Cave of Trials because after beating all of the bosses, there really is just nothing left I really care about. However, I actually did try to beat the Cave of Trials under this challenge's rules, and while I was able to do it, I could not even access Tangy Bug. I mean, I tried to fight all of the 50 fights with my 1 Tangy Berry in the 4th slot, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to actually use few enough items where I'd be able to actually see Tangy Bug appear. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's impossible, I cannot do it, and I am frankly content with that. Before my closing thoughts, I want to give a thank you to my channel members, particularly Ambi Switchy and Nintendo 60 Jorts. Your continued support is very much appreciated, especially during this time of the month. Holidays are behind us, ad rates are down, and that means the money is unfortunately going to be extremely tight for me. As well to the several of you that are pledging $2 a month to this YouTube channel. Every bit helps, and I much appreciate the fact that you're thinking of me even still. Now, as far as Rank 0 hard mode is concerned, I thought this was a fairly fun challenge to do. I understand, of course, that I'm not actually the first person to do it. There were 2 other Paper Mario experts that have done this challenge before me, in Coop and Cappy. There may be more people, but those are the 2 I actually know for a fact. And even then, only Coop actually completed this challenge, up to Team Slacker. And after finishing my own run of this challenge, it was fun to see how Coop went about with all of the bosses. So if you want to see an alternative perspective to this challenge, check out Coop. That's my recommendation, at least. As far as the next Fables challenge I'll do on this YouTube channel, there is only one I have left in mind that I really want to do, and that's the Redemption run of Princess only, aka Chompy only, because the new Fables update has given us new medals like Last Wind and We Owe Ya, and I want to put those medals to work because they actually allow Chompy to be able to beat the entire game all by herself. Technically. And if you're wondering what I'll do after that, I don't actually know, but at the same time, I'm not really taking any suggestions. And that's because, though I don't really like to talk about money very much, I unfortunately can't really operate this YouTube channel while playing Fables all the time because it's, first of all, a game that's rather limited in content you can actually play with, and I should know I've invested over 1,000 hours in this one game. And B, the potential for views and as a result ad revenue is not very high anymore. To be fair, it never really was very high, but passion can only get you so far, and my passion is really about out the window. For Fables anyway, I still love making videos, it's just, with Fables I've been experiencing a lot of burnout lately, and as I've learned from making Pokemon challenges, if I keep doing something for too long, I'm going to end up hating it. And I don't want to get to that point, so this, for the time being, may be my final Fables video. There may be future live streams, but as far as videos are concerned, it's currently Chompy's Redemption, and that's really about it. Maybe if I'm feeling especially passionate, I'll make a remake of my medals tier list. Maybe check out some Fables mods when those become available, like Fables Plus or the Enemy Randomizer. But that's for a later date. Until next time, this is Phantom A. I thank you for watching, and if next time never comes, goodbye.